All right, couple of receivers in the news because they have injuries that may not be resolved by the time Week 1 rolls around. Broncos receiver Jeudy suffered a hamstring injury in practice yesterday, carted off after he went down during joint sessions with the Rams. MRI, regardless, the expectation he will miss several weeks. And the thing about the hamstring, you got to give it time to heal, because if you don't, it's going to keep getting worse. It's going to keep coming back, and you're going to be dealing with it all year long. You're going to be dealing with it until you sit down for 4 to 5 weeks and let it fully heal. I'm not saying he's going to be out 4 to 5 weeks, but several weeks. Where did we hear that before this offseason? Joe Burrow, several weeks. We don't know what several means, but it's probably a month before we see. If I had to guess, I would say it's going to be a month before we see Jeudy at the earliest.
Well, yeah, Mike, it was especially when you're talking about wide receivers in that hamstring, it becomes that much more critically important for those guys to make sure that the hamstring is rested and healed, because if you don't have the explosion that you need from that hamstring, especially when you're coming off the line, when you're trying to make your cuts, when you're trying to make your breaks, you're trying to go up and catch the ball, then you can't be effective out there. So this is unfortunate for that Broncos offense. I mean, if I'm Russell Wilson, it's kind of like, man, everybody keeps going down here. Fortunately, they do still have Courtland Sutton. And also, fortunately, they've got Sean Payton designing the plays and calling the offense. Because if we know that Sean Payton can take guys and make names out of guys you never would have expected. So that's something that at least is a silver lining for Denver.
As we get closer to Tuesday, 4 p.m. Eastern, when the teams have to drop from 90 players to 53, I'm watching that potential pipeline from New Orleans to Denver. If there's some guys that may not make it with the Saints, that Sean Payton has fingerprints on them as it relates to bringing them in and developing them, maybe there's a guy or two that they throw, a late round pick in 25 or something. If the guy's getting cut anyway, maybe Payton brings him with him to Denver, especially now that he's got this need at the receiver position. Terry McLaurin, Monday night, and I don't want to be unfairly critical of Joe Buck and Troy Aikman, but I did think it was odd when we got the news during the broadcast that Terry McLaurin's x-rays were negative on his toe, that they just were like, oh, well, that's great, he's fine. Well, it's only half the story. You got ligaments in there too. Plenty of times a guy's x-rays are negative and he's still gone for a while. The x-rays don't show the injury to the ligament. He's got turf toe. He's got a ligament strain in his big toe, and he may not be ready for Week 1. You see it there happening on the left foot as he's going down in the Monday night game against the Ravens. So just because the x-rays were negative, now obviously it would have been very negative for the Commanders if they were positive, but we may not see him as they get off to a start that, they got a winnable game Week 1 against the Cardinals, and they may not have Terry McLaurin for it. It's all up in the air. So, it's who knows? And maybe they'll be fine without him. They got plenty of other weapons, and Sam Howell, distributing it around to the guys who are there. De'Ami Brown may have new life to his career now that he's reunited with Howell. But if you don't have Terry McLaurin, that's going to affect your team Week 1 and however long he misses after that.
No doubt. I mean, look, that's their number one receiver, and he's their number one receiver for a reason. Extremely talented, and one of those guys that seem really poised for, I don't want to call it a breakout year, because if you don't know who Terry McLaurin is, that's kind of on you at this point. But it's not like the Commanders have been playing, wonderful football since he's been there. So this is one of those guys where if you're Sam Howell, you're getting out there and you're like, man, oh man, I don't have my top receiver as I'm trying to really take these steps in my career and solidify myself as a starting quarterback. Hopefully he's back sooner than later and that toe heals up pretty quick. But that's something where, again, if you're a receiver and you've got a cut, right, you've got to make sure you're coming out your breaks. If that thing hits in the wrong spot or your toe hits the ground in the wrong spot, it can be very, very, very painful, and it can be a lingering thing. So hopefully McLaurin will rest, heal up, and get that toe right sooner than later, because he is certainly a huge part of that Washington offense.
Yeah, he's a high-end receiver that really doesn't get noticed because he's playing for a team without a great offense. They're not in a bunch of big games, and they haven't had the quarterback to really get him the ball the extent to which he deserves to have it, and he still has an impact, even under those circumstances, for the Washington Commanders. All right, let's take a break. Week 3, show me something draft for the preseason. This is going to be hard, too, because I don't know which starters are playing and what starters aren't playing, but I've done my best to research on the fly, and we'll make something akin to chicken salad when PFT Live continues right after this. Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.